Hi everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be demonstrating the support for KML or KMZ files and Simple GIS Client. For today's video, I'm using Simple GIS Client version 15.6.2.4. With the latest version, Simple GIS Client now allows users to easily add KML or KMZ files to their map, as well as full editing support for these files. To begin, you would add your KML or KMZ layer as you would any data layer to your map. So I'm going to go to Add Data as New Layer to Map tool button located here in my upper left window. And I'm going to click this tool. At this point in time, you would get your Add Data Layers to Map dialog box. And I want to make sure I select the first option here, Add Shape Layer or Image Data, since this is for any file-based type data that you might add to the map. At this point, I would select the folder where my KML or KMZ file resides. And if I had a lot of data layers, for instance, if I had my filter here set to all data, if I had a lot of different files in this folder, such as shape files or raster image, I could select my filter and set it to KML, KMZ files so that I only display relevant KML or KMZ files. In this case, I'm going to select the KML samples file. This is the sample KML file that you can download from Google that illustrates the KML format. So I'll select this file and click Add Selected Layer. As I do so, I'll get the KML layer properties where I can select the layer name. So if I wanted to give this a more descriptive name, I could do so just by typing in the value here for layer name, as well as setting scale ranges at which this layer would be visible. Of course, if I want it to be visible at all scale ranges, I just leave the minimum and maximum visibility set to 0. So I'll accept the defaults in this case, click Apply. And I see that I have a new layer added to my map. And being a KML file, it will actually add two subgroupings underneath this, one for place marks and then one for any type of image overlays contained in your KML or KMZ file. So as I can see, I do have some place marks that were placed here, and I can actually zoom in around this area to view those place marks. And at this point in time, I could edit these just as I could any type of shape file. Now, Simple GIS Client, you can edit place marks. You cannot directly edit image overlays in your file. But to edit your place marks, I could just simply right-click on my place mark, select Toggle Layer Edit, just as I would for a shape file or any other type of vector layer. At this point, I can use my feature edit tools to edit these as I would any type of vector layer, such as shapefile. So if I select my edit tool, for instance, I can drag a box around this place mark. I'll see the handles appear around it. At this point, as I move my mouse over it, I could click and drag this place mark to a new location. I could also double click on this place mark to bring up information such as the place mark name, so I could edit the place mark name at this point. I could also change the symbol of the place mark. Likewise, polygon or line features, I could also edit. So any polygon or line feature place mark using my edit feature tool. I could click on the polygon, for instance, using my edit feature tool. And I could right click in the map and select edit vertex if I actually wanted to edit the vertex on this polygon. So I could click on one of these vertex points and drag to a new location and release. Likewise, image overlays, well, I can't edit them. I will show you how they do come across. So if I select the image overlay, I could right click on this and select zoom to layer. And it would actually zoom to the extents of that image overlay. And now you can see that ground overlay in your map. At this point in time, if I was to toggle the layer editing off, it will actually convert the KML file to a KMZ file. The reason being because I can edit symbols for point place marks. It converts it to a KMZ file so that the symbols are retained such that you have all of the symbols contained within the KMZ file. So it's basically a self-contained file. So for example, if I come and right click and I'll toggle the layer editing off, of course, because this is currently a KML file, I'll get a message box saying the current KML file type will be converted to a self-contained KMZ file. Again, a KMZ file is just a compressed or zipped version of a KML plus any supporting files such as PNG, graphic symbols for point symbols, ground overlay imagery, any of those type of features. So in this case, I'll click OK. It's now being converted. And if I actually go into my folder where I had the KML samples, I still have the KML file there, but since I edited the KML file, it did convert it to a KMZ file. And if I just double click on this KMZ file, if you have the desktop version of Google Earth, it would load Google Earth and actually go ahead and load that KMZ file. Of course, I have multiple place marks as well as the ground overlay. So I'm going to zoom to the place marks that we actually edited. And you actually see the point place mark that we edited with the new symbol, since we did change the symbol. And if you recall, we edited this polygon place mark as well, edited the vertex. So now you see that that edit also included. And then, of course, it also maintained our ground overlay. And we can actually click on that to zoom to that ground overlay, which is still contained within the KMZ file as well. Now, the other things you can do with this, if I just go back to Simple GIS Client, of course, I have the KML file here. If I had another image in my file, let's just zoom out to an area again. Let's just zoom back out, and we're just going to pick a random area and zoom into it. Let's say Kansas City, for example. Simple GIS Client also allows you to save your current map view as a ground overlay. So if you had a map that you had created, and let's say you had a lot of different layers loaded, and you wanted to save this entire map as a ground overlay, you can do that as well. To do so, you go to your View drop-down menu, go Export View as Graphic, and select to Graphic File. And at this point, I can click the folder icon, and I can save this file type as a KMZ overlay. And I'm just going to give this a new file name for the overlay. Call it my overlay. I can change the resolution of this to make it a higher resolution, such that as you zoom in, it retains a much better image quality. And it's just depending on user preference. But for instance, I could change this to 300 pixels per inch or dots per inch. Click Apply. So at this point, it has exported that overlay. So again, I can come to my folder, select the KMZ file that it generated. So I named it my overlay. As I double click on this KMZ, again, it's going to load it into Google Earth and go ahead and zoom to that overlay. And I now see that it has placed the overlay into my map. So again, this is a way to actually, and this actually untitled placemark is not part of the overlay. That was something that already existed in my map, so I'll just turn that off. But here you see the overlay that it generated. You can also do something similar with graphics. So with graphics, as you add graphics into your map, you can also export those as a KML, KMZ file, as well as import KML and KMZ files as simple graphics into your map as well. So hopefully this gives you an idea of the support that's now available in Simple GIS Client for working with KML and KMZ files. As always, we encourage you to visit our website. That website is simplegissoftware.com, all one word. Thank you and have a great day.